That's awesome, man. And so let's talk about churn though, like on the other side where like you were talking about having clients for seems like a decent period of time, and then you're cycling them out, taking your lowest paying clients, ending that relationship, bringing in your higher paying clients or something like that. But what about on the other end? How have you seen in your experience, like maybe not, maybe because you have a background in this, but like maybe with your students as well, the churn on their end where the companies are saying, we're done with freelance, with you guys and we want to do something else.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the biggest mistakes freelancers make across every industry is they don't realize that you don't have to play by the rules, like these normal rules that are set out for us. It's like they read a blog about freelancing and then they just do that. And it's, do you have the ability to think for yourself? Like, how could you close the gap? How could you cause churn to go away? Are there ways to mitigate churn? And this is a totally, and maybe it comes from consulting, but that is a very normal thing with every company. Like when I work with companies on their business processes, do they want to make sales? Absolutely. Number one thing is lead generation. Number two thing is converting leads to customers. Number three thing is mitigating refunds. And guess what? Refunds are referred to as churn, and companies have processes in place to mitigate churn rate. So you do that for yourself. So how do you do that? How do you mitigate churn rate? Number one is by being communicative with your clients and making sure that you set proper expectations up front. And then that way you both are working towards a common goal. Now, let me simplify it down. What you can do, and what I do, is I get in place what is called a managed services agreement. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to work a project. Cool, that sounds good, man. I'm going to do a 50-hour project for $5,000, and that's going to be awesome. I'm going to knock it out in 2 weeks. And then they hit the wall and it's like, whoa, where's the next client? And then that's where everybody goes, but yeah, that won't work, Brad, because there's no income stability. And so you can't do this. Like if you latch onto the first excuse you come to and you do that repeatedly in your life, you are going to be nowhere. So
there you go. Preach.
So you cannot, if you grab the first excuse that comes up, this is not just with work, this is with everything. You have to get past that excuse. And if you find yourself at a wall and you can't overcome it, fine. But if you find yourself not attempting to overcome obstacles, you're done. Like you're done. You're going to hit walls immediately. What we do is people come to me and they're like, Brad, I got this deal. They want to do a 50-hour project and I'm going to try to turn it into a 100-hour project. What do you think? And my first, like immediately, it's like, no, the smaller the project, the better. And they're like, what are you talking about? The 100-hour project is $10,000. This is what you want to do. You want to grab it. You want to make it, maybe it's a 50-hour project. I recommend trying to make it a 30 or 40-hour project. And the reason for that is I want to do a small upfront project. And number one, I want to make sure I like the client. I want to make sure I like working with them. I want to make sure I even want to work with these. And before I latch onto a 100-hour project that I'm on the hook for, let me do 30 hours and make sure I actually want to work for them. And what you do from there is you do an amazing job and you knock it out of the park. And you might spend 50 hours on this 30-hour project because you are investing in the future of this client. So what you do at that point is you say, hey, I really enjoyed this 30-hour project. I have a lot of parking lot items, what we consider phase 2 items that we need to work on. And now I want to take these and let's put these into our managed services agreement. What's a managed services agreement? It's your subscription. It's a subscription agreement through the client. So you say, hey, you've got these parking lot items. I see we have about 50 hours of deliverables that I could give you here. But what I think we should do is make this a managed support or managed services agreement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 30 hours per month of my time. We're going to knock out all these project deliverables over the next couple of months, plus any additional requirements, any functionality that we can add on and make your company more productive and improve your processes. We are going to continue to do that week in, week out. And now you don't have to hire a full-time Salesforce, internal Salesforce professional. You can just work with me. It's going to be less money for you overall. You're going to have a experienced expert in-house. And now you have income stability because now they're going to pay you for 30 hours a month for the rest of eternity. And you go, yeah, Brad, but what's the rest of eternity? And so then it comes down to, let me explain to you that when you have a full-time job working 40 hours a week, you can be fired tomorrow. Right. When you have a managed services agreement with a client that is perceived as long-term, they can cancel it tomorrow. There is no difference. So make sure you understand that the paperwork that the HR department has you fill out has no representation of how quickly you can be fired. It doesn't matter what the paperwork looks like or how you pay your taxes or whatever else. You are a resource for that company. And if you're not doing your job, you can be fired. Absolutely. What I actually found in the pandemic was companies were much more willing to work with contract and freelance resources and not hire full-time resources because they were scared of making a long-term commitment. And they perceived freelancers as a short-term commitment, but it doesn't have to be that way with managed services agreements. To wrap this up, what I did is I found clients I loved. And I might work 3 or 4 projects, and then I would find a client that I just loved. And I was like, man, these people are great. They're easy to work with. They get it. They know I'm doing my job. They're not micromanaging or hassling me or asking me why I build so many hours or anything else, because they get who I am and we work well together. And I ended up locking those individuals in. And there are 2 companies in particular that I've been working with for 4 years. And so if you're talking about income stability, don't let that get in your way. You can absolutely define income stability with freelancing. So what I did is I worked 2 companies for the last 4 years. Those 2 companies brought me in $100,000 a year. And then I worked with other companies on the side, and some of them were around for a year. Some of them were just one project for a couple of months. And there's an ebb and flow. But there is no ebb and flow to my baseline $100,000. There's an ebb and flow to whether I make an additional $70,000 this year or an additional $150,000 this year. That's where the ebb and flow sits. So as long as I keep my family's expenses in that $100,000 range, the rest of that money is just gravy on top. And when you're talking about $100,000 of gravy, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's the best stuff. Thanksgiving dinner right there. But one thing I think that you do well too, I was even hearing even in your explanations on how you pitch things, how you sell things. I think you're you're great at marketing and selling. And so I actually want to talk to you a little bit about personal branding too. I've seen your stuff grow. And I'm in the same space as you, so it's like watching your courses grow, and your impact is growing too, and that's rad, man. You're giving back to the community. I love that.